Good morning everyone, my name is Darshan Singh and today's video is going to be really interesting and also one of the most common mistakes that students make in their writing tasks, especially when it comes to the general training and of course the academic as well. And this video will teach you how to avoid redundancy. So redundant words are everywhere. They are all the time in your mind, they're all the time in your hands when you write them in your essays, when you write them in your task one. So it becomes crucial to avoid these sort of words in order to get a 7+ band score in your writing task. So without wasting any time, let's straight away come to the topic and discuss avoiding redundant words. So what do we mean by redundancy? So redundancy simply means the repetition of similar meaningful words. For an example, as and for example, they are one and the same, but still many students use this as for example. This is absolutely wrong, this is absolutely incorrect. So in place of using as, for instance, you should either use as or you must use for example. Now this was only a small instance where I've told you that how incorrect you can be, how easily incorrect you can be when it comes to writing these sort of words. So just avoiding same meaningful words in a single sentence, that means avoiding redundancy. So redundancy means using similar words together, so we must avoid them. For example, advance, forward, this is wrong. Advance, progress or proceed, they in itself mean to move forward, to move ahead. So we do not need to mention forward with these three words. So simply write advance, proceed or progress. So similar is the case with this one. Return back, this is one of the most common mistakes that we do. Return back or revert back, absolutely wrong, because return and revert in itself means coming back, to go back or to send back. So return means to send back, so you do not need to use back with this. So never use absolutely certain, I'm absolutely correct, I'm absolutely right. The reason being, absolutely is unnecessary here. So absolutely is not required. You do not need to write absolutely certain. Just write it is correct, it is right, it is certain. Don't need to write absolutely with this. So next is add and additional. So add in itself means to add, so you do not need to write additional. And when you say ask him, so you do not need to write ask a question, because ask in itself means to put up a question. So you do not need to say ask a question, no, only ask him. So ask him would mean asking him a question. So then this is one of the again common mistakes that we make at the present time. So present in itself is depicting time. So when you write past, so you just need to write past. Do not write in the past time. There's no requirement of time, because past in itself means the time that has passed. So present means the present time. So you do not need to write time with present. So next one, you can write wait for. Like I'm waiting for my phone. This is correct. I'm waiting for my phone. But with await, you do not use this preposition. You do not use for. You only use for with wait, and with await you do not use for. Simply, I'm awaiting my phone. I am awaiting my phone, or I am waiting for my phone. So the preposition will only come with wait. With await you will not use any preposition. So next one is basic fundamentals. So fundamentals in itself means basic. So you don't need to write basic with that, because the meaning of fundamental is basic. So you use them separately. You either use basic or you use fundamentals. Now the next one is close proximity. So we generally use this when we have to mention that A is in close proximity to B. That means A and B are pretty close. So basically, proximity in itself means nearness. So if proximity means nearness, so you do not need to use this word close proximity, because close we use with something that is close to you, which is near you, and proximity also means which is near you. So you don't need to use this. So basically this mistake is generally done in the writing task 1 diagram of academic, that this is located in close proximity to this. So you do not need to write close, write only proximity, because proximity in itself depicts nearness to something. It is. So the next one is compete together. So compete or competition is mostly, or in any case, is with somebody else. So you do not need to use together. Together is not required, because the competition cannot be with you only. You need to compete with someone else. So together is not required here in this case. Next is completely filled. So something that is filled, that means it is complete. So you do not need to write completely with this. So write only filled or finished or only opposite. Completely using with these three words will be redundant, will be wrong, will be incorrect. So you do not need to use completely filled, completely finished, completely opposite. Only write filled, finished, opposite. Next is dictionary book. So dictionary in itself means a word book. So you will never use book with a dictionary. Now the next one is end result or the final outcome. So outcome means final result. So result means ending. So don't use end with result and final with outcome. Don't use. Use only result or outcome. So when you use few, using only few is correct. You do not need to write few in number. That is wrong, because the numbers are less. That means it is few. So you don't need to mention the obvious things. So when you mention the obvious things, similar words, that means redundancy. So if there is a lot of redundancy in your writing, even if you have used a lot of connectors, a lot of phrases, you have used correct grammar, because if there is redundancy, the marks will be deducted definitely. So this is one of the main aspects of the IELTS writing when it comes to getting more than 7.5 or 8, right? So this is the video that you need to watch carefully and note down each and every word that I am giving you here. So next is foreign import. So import generally means when you are importing something from a foreign country. So you don't need to mention foreign. You don't need to mention the obvious word, right? So next is new innovation. Innovations are always new. Innovations are new discoveries. Innovation is a new idea. So you don't need to write new with innovation, new with invention, or new with discovery, because these things generally means a new idea. And again, as I mentioned earlier, history and record. So record is something that happened in the past. History is something that happened in the past. So you do not need to mention past history. History means in itself that it happened in the past. So with record or history, never use past. Next one is repeat again. So this is one of the most common mistakes that we make, repeat again. So why to use again? Because repeat means to say again. So never ever use again with repeat. Now the next mistake, the common mistake, two twins. So twins in itself means two alike people, two people alike, two siblings, right? So don't use twins and two together, right? So next is matinee performance. So matinee in itself means a performance in the afternoon. So matinee is a performance itself. So you do not need to use performance with matinee. The next one is the place where. So if you're writing the place where dash was born, so you don't need to write this. Simply write where dash was born, or the place dash was born. You don't need to use place and where together. And same thing, because where is used for place and when is used for time. So when is used to refer something similar to time, and where is used to for a reference of place. So don't use them together. Simply the place where is wrong, the time when is wrong. Either use time or when separately and where and place separately. So guys, these are one of the most common, I should say, redundant words that are used in your speaking as well as writing. And these words generally, when we use them and we don't find them wrong, because they are so redundant and so common in our psyche that we never notice them. So this is something that needs to be practiced, that needs to be noted down carefully, and you must be very careful when it comes to your writing task, especially that your words, your phrases, your writing is not redundant. So I'm giving you a couple of seconds. You can take a screenshot for your reference, and then you can note it down somewhere and use them when required. Okay, so moving ahead in this video, there are few sentences, few examples of redundant sentences. I will also suggest you to take screenshot of this as well, and we will also discuss them one by one. So the upper sentence is incorrect. What is the end result of the game? So as we've learned previously, you will never use end with the result. So simply, what is the result of the game? And this again, we discussed earlier that artificial intelligence is a new invention. So don't write new with invention. Invention in itself means new ideas, right? So the next one is Bale has bought a new dictionary book, right? So in this case, book will not be there. Simply, Bale has bought a dictionary. Bale has bought a dictionary book. So book is not required with dictionary. And here as well, with history, you do not need to write past. We should know the history of our nation. So history in itself means the past stories, the past time, people in the past. So you don't need to mention the obvious thing. The work is nearly almost finished. So nearly is also same, almost is also same. The work is, either you will write the work is almost finished or the work is nearly finished. So again, two twins, there will be no two. And same, identical, because identical also means similar and same also means similar. So you will write the two twins have the same identical birthmarks. No, the two will not be there. The twins have the identical birthmarks. So same and two are redundant here. So you must avoid them. Okay, next one is Matthews repeated the question slowly again so that Jim would understand. So again, is it right or is it wrong? It is wrong, because I have already used repeated. So again will not be written here. And next one, again the incorrect sentence. Helen and her sister competed together. So with competition, you never compete with yourself, you compete with others. So you do not need to write together, because it is obvious that there will be at least two persons who would be competing with each other. So never write each other, never write together. Simply, Helen and her sister competed in the musical talent show. That's it. So again, when it comes to formal writing, especially your essays, so these are some of the most common redundancies that are used, in my opinion, right? So in place of in my opinion, you can simply write I believe that, I think that, right? And when it comes to collaborated together, so when you are collaborating, in itself means you are collaborating with other people. So you do not need to mention together. In this case, together is wrong. Only use collaborated. Next, again, we have already gone through the past experience. So in this case, past is not required, because experience is something that you take in past, that you go through in past. So the next one is the reason why. So here you don't need to use why. The reason, only simply the reason. Because reason in itself, when you are writing, you are answering the why question. So you do not need to write why again. Next is plus. I've seen a lot of students using plus in place of and. It is absolutely incorrect. Never use it. Only use and, in addition, or besides, or as well as. Don't use this. This is one of the most informal phrases. So informal writing must be avoided when it comes to writing task 2. Okay. Now this list is very important. Now this list is something that you will cherish the most in this video, because these are one of the most commonly used redundant phrases in your writing task 2 and writing task 1, whether it is a letter or it is the data interpretation or it is the essays, any sort of essays. So this is something that you need to inculcate in your mind, in your dictionary, somewhere else, wherever you want to write it. It is important. So whenever you're writing the tasks, you have this list in front of you. You must know that what are the words that I need to avoid. So let's discuss them one by one. So absolutely, as we have mentioned already, absolutely right, absolutely certain, absolutely sure, essential, guaranteed. Don't use absolutely with this, because certain means that you are 100% sure. So absolutely is not required here, because the certain word in itself depicts that it is absolutely correct, that you are absolutely sure. So absolutely is not required here. So when it comes to actual experience or actual fact, so actual will not be used, right? Because fact is actual in itself. Fact is something that is truth. So you do not need to write actual with it. So experience is something that you have experienced, that you have gone through. So that means it is also a fact. So you do not need to use actual with that. And next, add an additional dash. So again, additional is extraneous. You don't need to use additional. Simply add dash. Only add will be the used word here. Next one is added bonus. So added is redundant here. You do not require added, because bonus in itself means when you are getting something extra. So added is something again that you are being added to. So these both words are similar. Do not use them. Next, look at this redundancy. One of the most common mistakes: advance notice, advance planning, advance reservation, advance warning. Because warning is always advance. Reservations are always made in advance. Planning is always done in advance. Notice is always sent in advance. So never write advance notice, never write advance planning. Write straight notice, planning, reservations and warning, right? Don't use advance with these words. Next, again, as for example, we have discussed before as well. It will be either as or for example. Then again, one of the common mistakes: ask a question. The government must be asked a question. This is wrong. The government must be asked. A question will not come with ask. We will only write ask. The next is at the present time. This is one of the most common mistakes I have seen in the writing task 2. At the present time. In the past time. Don't write in the past time. Only write in the past. Or at this time, or at present. Time is not required, because time in itself means at this time. So time is not required here. Next is basic, fundamentals and essentials. We have already discussed this before. So basic and fundamental is one and the same thing. The next one is filled to capacity. So capacity is something that is the maximum that you can go. So filled is again the maximum, right? So don't use filled to capacity. Either write filled to or only write capacity. Here in this case, capacity is repetitive because you have already written filled to. So capacity is not required. Next one is came at a time when. So when you have already mentioned when, you don't need to mention time, because when he was coming, when, so when is an expression of time, so time is redundant here, it will not be used in this phrase. Next, again we have done close scrutiny and close proximity. So proximity in itself means close, and you do not need to use close here with either proximity or scrutiny. You will only use either proximity or scrutiny. The next one is collaborate, join, meet, merge, together. So together will not be used with collaborated, with join also, because join in itself means when you are joining two things, so you do not need to write together. And meeting is also done with others, so you do not need to write together, meet together, no, only meet or merge. One thing is merged with the other, so never use together, merged together, no, only merged. In this phrase, together is redundant and shall not be used. Next one is completely filled. So something that is filled is complete, something that is finished is complete, something that is opposite is also different from what you are looking for. So in this case, completely must not be used. Now you can see here consensus of opinion. So consensus of opinion is purely redundant, but the phrase opinion is usually unnecessary, because if your consensus is, that means your opinion is. So either use opinion or use only consensus. Next is during the course of. This is again one of the most common mistakes that everybody makes. During the course of this period, during the course of this year, during the course of this month. So during in itself means the course of, right? So during the course of is repetitive, so you must only use during, because during in itself means throughout the duration of or in the duration of. So you do not need to write the course of, only write during. Next is definite decision. So when you have made a decision, that decision is always definite. So either use that I am definite, that means that your decision is final, or use that it is my decision, right? So sometimes decisions may not be final, so it cannot be used like this, definite decision. So either you use only decision or you use that I am definite. Next is difficult dilemma. Dilemma means confusion, and difficult is something that can be omitted. You do not require difficult with a confusion, because dilemma, a confusion in itself means something that is complicated in nature. So you only use dilemma, you can eliminate difficult. Next one is direct confrontation. So when you are confronting someone, it is always a head-on thing. It is always direct, eye to eye, right? So direct should not be used here, only confrontation, right? Simply. Next, again, end result. So something that is a result, that means it is the ending. So end can be eliminated. Next one is enter in. So when you are entering, you are definitely going in somewhere, you are coming into something. So entering is to go in. So you do not need to use in with enter. Just simply use enter. Next is estimated at about, or estimated at roughly. So estimated and about is one and the same thing, because these two values are not certain. This means it is either estimated or about or roughly. So these three meanings are absolutely similar. So you don't need to use all of them together. Either use an estimated of dash, or about dash, or roughly dash. Don't use them together. Now the next one is false pretense. So pretense is something that is a deception, and false here will be redundant. It should never be used with pretense, because pretense is already something that is not right, that you are doubting something, which is pretense. So when you are doubting it, that means it is not truth. So you do not need to use false with pretense. Next is few in number. So when the numbers are less, that already means few. So in number will not be used, right? So you will only use few. Next is final outcome. As we have discussed earlier, that outcome, result, conclusion is always the final. So here final will not be used. Now first, begin, new, beginning. So beginning is always new and begin is always first. So first and new are superfluous terms in these cases, right? So they will never be used. First and new will not be used, only began and beginning will be used. So the 27th is for a period of time, number of days. So days is always plural, right? DAYS. So duration is implied. So you will only use days and then period, right? So this is something that you need to remember, because you know a number in this case is redundant and must never be used. Next is foreign imports. As I mentioned earlier, imports are always done from foreign countries. So foreign here will be redundant. Only imports will be used. Forever and ever. So ever here is not required, right? So because it is just the same meaning as forever. So only forever. Next is free gift. Gifts are always free. You never buy gifts for yourself, right? So gift is always free, and gift is extraneous. You don't need to write this word. This is an extra word which is not making a sense here. So you will only use gift. Next is invited guests. You always invite your guests. So there's no point of writing invited. It is redundant. You will only say guests. Okay, the next one is major breakthrough. So you don't need to use major. Major is not going with this, because breakthrough in itself means a major thing that you have achieved, a scientific thing that you have achieved, a significant progress in an effort, right? So breakthrough in itself means a significant thing, a significant outcome. So major is not required here. Okay, now we'll come to next, number 33. People use numbers like 3 a.m. in the morning, which is wrong. You only write 3 a.m. because a.m. will suggest that it is morning. Like 4 p.m. in the evening, wrong. You don't need to write evening with 4 p.m. because p.m. will suggest that it is evening. Next one is past history. We have already gone through this. History and records are always made in the past, so you don't need to use this word past. Next is plan ahead. So when you are planning, that means you are planning for the coming time. You are planning for the future. So don't need to use ahead. It is not required here. Next is possibly might. Possibly might be achieved. So might in itself means that there is a chance. It is not sure, but there is a chance. There is a probability that this thing would be achieved. So there is a possibility. So you don't need to write possibly might. Only use might. Possibly will not come here. Next one is postpone until later, right? So you don't need to write later, because postpone in itself means to delay something. So postponing is delaying. So later will not be used. It is redundant. Next is protest against. So when you are protesting, you are definitely protesting against another party. So you don't need to write against, because you are against their viewpoints, you are against their actions. The reason is you are protesting. So when you are protesting, against is redundant. You don't require. The government, the people were protesting against the government. This is wrong. The people protested the government, right? There were protests going on. So against is not required. 39th is repeat again. So repeating is something to do again. So again is not required. It is unnecessary. Next is revert back. So don't use back, because reverting means to reply back. So back is already there in this. So you do not need to use a separate back with this. Next is same, identical. So same and identical is one and the same thing. You will not use same with identical. Next is since the time when. So time is already given and when is used as an expression of time, so you don't need time, you will only use when. Next is spell out in detail. So in this case detail is repetitive, because spell out means when you are asking for details from someone. Like if I say, please spell out the incidents to me. So spell out means to tell me the details of the incidents. So detail is not required in this case. Next is still remains. So still will not be used, because remains in itself means the thing that is still present. So still will not be used. It is redundant. Next is suddenly exploded. Right? So explosion is something that always happens suddenly. So suddenly will not be used. Right? Only the dash exploded. So explosion always happens suddenly. We are using this word because something has suddenly happened. So suddenly will not be used. Next is therapeutic treatment. So treatment, if you see in the medical care, is the nature of therapeutic, right? So the adjective is redundant. So therapeutic will not be there, or the treatment will not be used together with therapeutic, because therapeutic in itself means something, a nature of treatment, a sort of treatment, right? Next is unexpected surprise. So surprises are always unexpected. So unexpected will not be used here. And no surprise is something that is expected, because surprises are always unexpected. Next is unintended mistake. Mistakes are always unintended. You do not make intended mistakes. Mistakes in itself means that is an erroneous action, that has something happened that is in not your control. So mistake is something that is not made intentionally. It is always unintentional. Next is usual custom. So custom is something that usually happens from many years, right? So you will not write usual custom. So custom in itself means a habit, a routine thing that you always do. Like my custom is to get up early in the morning. I love to do exercise. This is my custom. So you do not need to mention usual. And even usual, custom, usual, routine is wrong. Routine in itself means something that you do every day. So don't need to mention usual with that. Next, one of the most common mistakes, written down. So down is superfluous. It will not be used. Written is something that you take down, that you note down. So in itself, written means noting down things. So you don't need to write down with written. So guys, I'm giving you some time to take a screenshot of this, the words that we have discussed, and I feel that these are going to be very helpful for you, because redundancy is something that most people are not able to avoid, and it is something that should be avoided if you're looking for something close to 7.5 or 8 in your writing task. So I always believe, keep on watching my videos, and one by one I'll be covering all sorts of things that are necessary to get a higher band score in all the modules, right? We have still not started with the reading tips. We'll be doing it this week only. Just need to be a bit patient, because I have been receiving a lot of calls, a lot of messages from students. I'll go there, but one by one, right? Okay, now please take a screenshot of this beautiful table as well. So on the left hand side, these are some of the redundant phrases or words that must be avoided, and in place of these words you must always use this, like 12 midnight. So midnight in itself means 12 in the night. So you don't need to write 12 midnight. 12 noon, because noon means 12 in the day. So never write 12 noon or 12 midnight. A total of 14 birds. No, only write 14 birds. This mistake generally happens in writing task 1 of the academic, where we always write a total of 14%. No, don't write a total of 14%. Straight away write 14%. Next is biography of her life. So don't need to mention her life, because biography is something, a book which is written on one's life. So you don't need to mention her life. Next is circle around. So around is redundant, because circle in itself means merry-go-round, going around. Next is close proximity. We have already done it. Then each and every, in place of each and every, always try to use each. And will not be there with the result. Exactly the same. In place of exactly the same, you will write straight away the same. And gift is always free. In spite of the fact that, in place of in spite of the fact that, you can straight away use although, right? In the event that, you can use if, you can also use supposedly. New innovations, new will not be there with the innovation. One and the same, in place of one and the same, you will use the same. Period of 4 days, wrong. You will always write 4 days. This is also wrong. Repeat again, no, only repeat. Revert back, wrong. It is only revert. Next is longer in length. So longer in itself or shorter in itself means something that is shorter in length, and longer means which is longer in length. So in length is redundant, will not be there. So summarizing means to speak or to write in brief. So brief will not be there. You will only use summarize. Right? So guys, this is all about today's video. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed this video and if you learned something new, then please like the video, subscribe the channel if you're coming to this channel for the first time, and share it with your friends and family. Whosoever is preparing for IELTS exam will be getting quality videos here. And if you're facing problems in any module regarding IELTS, or any sort of question that you're facing issue in reading or in writing, task 1, task 2, you can straight away write in the comment section. You can message us, you can email us, and I'll try my best to put up a video on that. Okay guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Take care.